Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Deconstructor of Fun interview series. I'm your host, Jen Donahoe, co-host of This Week in Games podcast and a strategic marketing consultant at Beta Hat Research and Jade Inferno Consulting. Lots of stuff there. So this topic today, I am super excited for this conversation. We all know that influencer marketing has become key to how games launch and maintain their engagement. And thanks to what Apex did back in the day in 2019 with their surprise influencer-led launch, most game companies have influencer campaigns as the core part of their marketing toolkit. I know I have. We even see this as part of the new Web3, and I kind of call it Web 2.5, early access launch of Off the Grid. Oh, Pat, I want to ask you about that later. That launch has been featuring some of the biggest streamers in Battle Royale genre. You know, many of them, the Ninjas, the Shrouds, are all playing that game, and I think getting a lot of money out of that. But as I look backwards to what Brawl Stars and Supercell did, pulling forward the Squad Busters, Supercell has really created this compelling program called the Supercell Creator Program. It expands on the OG influencer marketing into kind of what I'm calling Creator Programs 2.0 or Influencer Marketing 2.0, with a thriving and ongoing creator community that they really are cultivating into a great space for creators. So with any trend, I think that there comes a time for a 3.0 evolution. And I think we're starting to see that with how creator programs are evolving. And you know, during this conversation, we're going to call them creator programs, creator clubs, creator codes. All of these can now actually be integrated into your mobile game or integrated into your PC game. Console too, guys? Can they go? And even console. So this, I think, is the next generation of creator programs. And so to unpack this and really get into this idea of Creator Programs 3.0, I've assembled three amazing folks who represent the triad to pull this off. So a game dev, a creator, and a creator program leader. And so with that, let me introduce Pat Carney is Chief Pat, who I had the pleasure of working with on TFT when we launched TFT on mobile. Pat is a mobile gaming content creator with over 2 million subscribers and the founder of Tribe Gaming. It's a mobile gaming content collective. So thank you for coming, Pat.
Absolutely. Super excited to be here.
Scott Walker, who he and I used to work at EA together back in the dark ages. I don't know, like many, many years ago. Scott is CEO of Ninja Kiwi, the makers of Bloons Games, Bloons TD6, and longtime supporter of organic community and content creators. He's been working on creator programs for 2 years and has actually been working with our next guest, Justin Sachs, who is CEO of Nexus.gg, which is a creator program in a box. I love it. So your platform allows, you know, creators and game folks to just really seamlessly integrate these programs. So sorry, Scott, I forgot to let you say hi. Let's hear from you so we know your voice.
Hello. No, great to be here. Really looking forward to the conversation.
Awesome. And Justin, let's hear from you. Welcome, Nexus.gg. Can't wait to talk about it.
Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it. And hello.
You've heard of Heroic Labs by now, and we keep talking about them because you need every edge to be successful in today's market. Heroic Labs game stack is built like a brick house. You got the Nakama, their backend game server, Hero, their game development framework, Satori, their live ops service, and last but not least, Heroic Cloud to provide massive scalability. Heroic Labs is a battle-tested partner, and their tech enables you to be flexible, creative, and scale for success. Focus on your game, avoid tech risks, grow your product with scalable live ops, and save a big chunk of cheese, all with Heroic Labs.
Let's get into it because I have just so many questions for you all, because this is so interesting how we are really watching this just transform in front of our eyes. But first, before we talk about what's coming next, let's talk about some definitions here. So the idea of defining what a creator program is, and how is this different from like old school influencer marketing? I think they're different, right, Justin?
Yeah. So to talk initially about traditional influencer marketing, often the way that you would think about it from a mechanical sense is the game publisher takes marketing budget. So they take a bag of money, and often they go through agencies, which could be a generic marketing agency, but often in a specific influencer agency. And they say, here is money. Tell me your rate to either make a piece of content like a video or a cost per hour to stream my game. And then they send them the money, and there's very little knowledge of results or attribution. You can get some stuff around like how many people watched it and what was the sentiment around it, but it's hard to see, did any of the people watching it convert into players, or did they stay in the game or make any purchases? But traditionally, influencer marketing is really focused on that initial piece around acquisition. Separately, creator programs are more of a holistic, aligned incentive, evergreen program. So it's a way to work organically with the creators that love your game and who will stay engaged with the game for a really long period of time. And a lot of the times, at least the ones that Nexus focuses on, they're focused around revenue share. And so the way that mechanically works is inside of the game, the player can type in their favorite creator's name. So often it's called a support a creator code. And then when they make a purchase, that player makes a purchase, some portion of that revenue is then shared back with that content creator. And we found those creator programs are really great at more of the growth metrics. So things around retention, conversion, reactivation, all that sort of stuff. And so that's some of the definitions. There's some other stuff in creator program that we view as table stakes, just around allowing creators to communicate with developers and getting early access to content and other things like that. But the core feature is that revenue share piece.
I really feel like for influencer marketing versus these creator programs, for influencer marketing, you're generally focusing non-endemic, casting a super wide net on more condensed timeframe specific campaigns. Whereas these creator programs, they're focused around your core community and ultimately the creators who are the lifeblood of your game. These creators are generally posting, multiple times a week, if not every game, content around your game. They're fully incentivized for your game to grow, so their viewership grows and their business ultimately grows in the end. And investing into that creator program and to your core community generally is going to pay in spades when it comes to yielding long-term results. With influencer marketing, while it can be effective in certain scenarios and maybe something more short-term, maybe you're advertising a new game and update something similar. With creator programs, you're generally talking about creators who, instead of posting 2 or 3 videos around your game, they're posting thousands of videos around your game. And they generally are going to be the tastemakers and the thought leaders for your respective community. So building an alliance with them, making sure you're properly aligned together through a creator program can yield incredible results, which, I've had the chance to experience head on, doing so with Supercell.
So it sounds like for you all, one of the key components is a sustained engagement with a creator. And that influencer marketing is kind of that pop and drop of, and I think this is the problem that Apex had back in the day, is once, I think it was Ninja or Shroud. I always forget which is the one who made $1 million with his 1 week of streaming. But whichever one it was, like once he dropped off and everyone was like, oh, wait, they paid him and he's not authentically actually playing this game. I think we all know that players' consent's bullshit. And so they know that if you're just there for that hype moment and you peace out, they're not, as you're saying, like authentically engaged with the game and really staying. The other thing I wanted to ask both of you about was the idea of codes and creator codes. The joke in marketing is always like, nobody clicks on the code. So what is it about these programs that makes it different? Like people are actually clicking on the code, so to speak?
Well, that's a really important question, because those sort of things, which are like the links that you'll have someone put in like their chat box on Twitch or in the panel below a YouTube video, those are really hard to get communities to interact with. And certainly on the creator side, you want to reduce as much friction as possible. And so a supported creator code is an in-game experience. And so whether you're working with a third-party platform like Nexus or you build a first-party, you need a way, an actual user experience, so that the player inside of their normal flow, whether that's in their settings, and Scott can talk about the experience in his games, or in the purchase flow, so inside of the shop, the player has a field that they can type in their favorite creator's name. And then when they hit accept, it attaches that player account to their favorite creator account. And then future purchases can be attributed back to that creator.
Understood. So it's a little bit of a different in-game system that you guys have built out. Scott, from your perspective, from the dev perspective, how are you seeing the difference between influencer marketing and creator programs? Has it really moved the needle for you to think about this differently?
Yeah, I mean, it did. So much has developed in the last really 15 years. It has been a sea change. And as we say, we've seen at least a couple of evolutions of that process. Ninja Kiwi is fortunate to have had a long-standing Flash game that grew into a mobile game and a PC game, with now kind of getting across almost a generation of players. And we've worked really closely with our community all along the way. And of course, central to that were our content creators who have been making videos on Blint's games go back to like 2010. Like it really is, it really goes back a long way. So over that time, we've worked more and more closely with our content creators. But there was always that question of, how do we get skin in the same game? Obviously, it's around, we make the game and you make the videos and we both do well. That was fine. That went along up until a point. But more and more, it really is about the way that content creators can activate players around key features and give context. And especially as we're sharing data, like they're not just entertainers, they're inventors. They're thinking of different ways to approach the game. And they're often coming up with crazy ways to play that we hadn't even thought of. So they become part of the design loop and the feedback loop and looking at what would modders want to do? What would Apex players want to do? What are first-time players experiencing? And it's pushing us to challenge ourselves as developers and designers to think about the game in an entirely new way. And so it was like, we really need to be sharing the business incentives. And then going through COVID and seeing how much of an impact many creators that came to Gloom's games during COVID years, how much that pushed our audiences and diversified our audiences was just really clear. And it was beautiful to be able to talk to Justin and say, we have a program that does that connects you with your content creators in a business context. And that's exactly what we were missing. We've got that now.
Super cool. One of the programs that I saw out there, and, sometimes we've been a little critical of Supercell's launch of Squad Busters recently, but one of the things that I just am in envy of is their creator program, how much they really cultivate their audience and cultivate their fans. And they've been bringing in fans to do events in large ways since, 2018 and before. And Pat, you'll probably be able to fill me in much more on this. But I wanted to ask you, as someone who works with Supercell in their creator program, could you do a little bit of, how it works and what are the benefits to creators and the pros and cons of that, just to understand what does best in class look like? I mean, and are they best in class, I guess I should say.
100%. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it feels like the creator program had super humble beginnings. For context, I started creating videos around Clash of Clans in 2012. I remember when I started, I actually was trying to hide my channel from Supercell because I thought they were going to copyright strike me and take down my channel. At the time, it was a wild west of creators posting content around their games. And lo and behold, Clash of Clans one day commented under my video saying, "Nice video, Chief." And it was the biggest sigh of relief knowing that, we could be in this together. And, we were mutually aligned in wanting to make Clash of Clans the biggest game possible. So, from there, almost the very beginning was this 8-person Skype group where they actually would fly us out to Finland for the latest Clash of Clans updates. Back then, we couldn't access the dev build from across the pond. So, it felt like every 3 months I would fly out to Finland. They would give us sneak peeks for the new updates. And we started to build a deeper relationship. And then obviously you fast forward to today, the Creator Club covers hundreds of different creators, all of the different Supercell games, and there's so many more features and perks to being a Supercell creator now more than ever. It's one of, if not the best in class program for being a content creator, ultimately in the end. So how it works right now is for creators, you're going to apply for the Supercell creator program, depending ultimately in the beginning based off your following and different milestones you've reached on your social media channels. So whether YouTube, Twitch, etc., depending on how many followers, views, subscribers, etc., that you've gained, you're going to be placed into a tiered program and have access to a number of different perks. So those perks could be like the very beginning for me, getting a chance to access exclusive sneak peek content for upcoming updates for the game, which obviously is really beneficial because I want to get the newest content out as soon as possible. My audience wants to watch that. Getting something exclusive in a super saturated audience of YouTube content is absolutely incredible. You're going to get access to developers directly through the creator program to be able to chat with them one-on-one, understand what's coming out within the games, ask various questions, and tie yourself better into the community. And then obviously, as both Justin has kind of mentioned, finally is the creator code. So being able to promote your creator code, players being able to enter it into the game, make in-app purchases of which you receive a percentage of, obviously is incredible. For many creators, this can make up a serious double-digit amount of the revenue for their business within the revenue mix, all for encouraging their audience to purchase various in-app goods for the game, whether, with new updates or even just purchases that ultimately that they're making already in the end. So, I feel like this creator program relationship is super beneficial on both sides. First of all, for the creators, as we mentioned already, you're getting access to a new revenue stream through your creator code, which is incredible. You're getting that exclusive content to post on your channels. You're getting access to the developers one-on-one to make better informed decisions and videos across your channel. And you're even getting a chance to collaborate with other creators, whether through, Discord or Slack or any other exclusive creator communities. But on the developers end, I feel like there's just as much value. First, one thing that I've seen a lot of, and one maybe less obvious benefit of the program, is by getting everyone together on the same page through a creator program and giving your creators access to a one-on-one relationship with a developer, it solves a lot of, I would say, like PR related issues for the game and builds trust with the publisher and the developer directly. Take an example. I'm a creator playing, Clash of Clans. Clash of Clans releases an update that misses the mark. The player base doesn't like it. All of a sudden, my viewership drops by 30%. If I don't have access to the developer directly to be able to understand maybe the decision making behind the update or why it is the way that it is. If I feel like I'm on an island and my business is cratering, my views are down, and I don't understand, why the decisions were made the way that they were, it creates this disalignment between creator and publisher, to where that's when you generally see examples of maybe creators start to panic and freak out or, become overly critical with what's happening. But having a chance to access that developer one-on-one, to be able to talk to them and understand the rationale behind the decisions that they made, agreed or disagree, has done a lot for various communities who've implemented these programs, because ultimately you feel like you're on the same page with the creator as well as the developer. So I think that one is absolutely huge when it comes to this. I think for the publisher, obviously, as we mentioned, getting a chance to drive, revenue from potential first-time purchases through in-app purchases and just generally the benefits of using the code in general. I think getting the access to feedback from the creators directly, whether for new games, new updates coming out to the game, you create you really create a loyal list of creators who want you to succeed, who want you to do well, and who you can leverage to work with you on these things genuinely because they want to in the end. That can ultimately galvanize for releasing new games, for releasing new updates, and ultimately being ambassadors for your community, because almost emotionally, they feel like they're on the same page as the publishers and developers. And then obviously, through the creator code as well, they're incentivized for the games to do well. So that's my YouTuber spiel. Hopefully it gives you an idea of both sides of the spectrum and why it's been a big success.
I love it because I've lived it on the publisher side, both at Scopely, on a lot of the games. It was my job to kind of run, in a sense, what was a creator program before it was called a creator program. We called them VIP programs. And so I did the same thing at Riot as well, because at Riot, it is one of the places where we were very community driven. Like, I think many people know player experience first is the core of how Riot views it. And the way that we transparently would communicate with players and creators was amazing. And I think, you gave a couple of great examples of giving that early access, having open and transparent communication, and making sure that you're really empowering the creators with the right information. One of the things I averted many a spending boycott at Riot, but at Scopely, once we would bring all of the creators in and we would explain, hey, here's what's going on, here's the feature, they became our best advocates. And they, in a sense, were our army that went out and took the bullets for us. It was amazing to see the people who were yelling at me, once I brought them in and really brought them, into the fold and made them family and gave them all of these assets, they really became part of the army.
Yes, I think that's been a big, I think the example you just gave it is perfect. It's just as simple as having an access, even without the code, to the developer and publisher directly to be able to chat and give that feedback and not feel like you're yelling into the void on Twitter or through your YouTube channel, but to get a really understanding of why these decisions are made or feel clued into that process at all, and that the community feedback is heard. I think solves 90 to 95% of that flack you're talking about when it comes to creators in the end. And naturally, with them understanding and feel like the developer cares about them and the state of the game, they become your best advocates through that in the end. And we've seen through Supercell games, someone like Kairos, for an example, is such an incredible ambassador for Brawl Stars. And he's been so empowered by the Brawl Stars team when it comes to giving feedback to the game, understanding the decisions that they made, and him being honest on his YouTube channel about what he thinks about these things. But I think ultimately we've seen best in class communication from Brawl Stars through their creator program to where they've been, one of the most bulletproof games through community that I've ever seen within mobile gaming.
Agree.
Simply due to that fact.
Yeah, on the podcast a couple weeks ago, I was like, if you're not watching the community channel for Brawl Stars, like those guys, and I think they are all guys, are just best in class on how like they come with humor, but they come with information. they do it in a really fun way that I haven't seen done before. And I think that's community, again, like 2 or 3.0 now is bridging that gap. But so Justin, I think as you came and saw all of this kind of best in class work that Supercell was doing, what really led you to create Nexus.gg, and how do you take, everything that's already out there and turn it into what's become your platform?
Yeah, we were super impressed and remain super impressed with what Supercell has built. And I think a lot of it is, one, they put in the time. So it's been half a decade of maybe even more of building out the program, but also the resources. I mean, they have not just like best in the world from a community and creator ecosystem perspective of these like evergreen supporters and managers and partner relations folks, but they've done the engineering work to make the in-game experience frictionless. They have a whole website that's like best practices to help a creator make better content and, grow within the program. And often overlooked, but critical for this, they put in the energy and time and resources on the financial and accounting side so that the creators can get paid on time and know when they're getting paid and how much and all sorts of stuff, which all of that is a lot of work for a publisher. And so when we saw what Supercell has built, we're like, this is awesome. Every game should have this, but they should not have to build and manage it themselves. And so that's what we set out to try to do our best to become, is that platform that can help a game have a creator program without having to build and manage it, but to be world-class and be unique to their own community and to their own creators. And so part of that journey was reaching out to some of those world-class live game operators. And one of those was Scott, and he can tell you about the experience of working with us, but that's what we set out to try to accomplish.
Oh, that's amazing. So Scott, you took the creator platform in a box, which I guess is a white label tool set, and integrated it to Bloons TD6. I can't believe there's 6 of them. I feel so old. So how was that process for you?
And all the stuff that I was mentioning too, I think it's both from the development side, but then also from the business side and the administrative elements that Justin's mentioned. Like, it's all hard. It's all really difficult. And there are specialists in all of these areas that have spent years developing tool sets and expertise to be able to do things well. Doing things by yourself, really hard. Having a distributed intelligence and experience to work with other people lightens the lift. So as we're talking about within a developer community, working together is better for everyone. It actually, we're all lifting really strongly, but we're doing that in a coordinated, supported way. So that player coordination is massively important. Then the business and administrative and operational infrastructure elements that Justin is talking about is just something. I mean, Ninja Kiwi is not at the scale of Supercell. We literally would not have the financial infrastructure to do that, probably the technical infrastructure to deal with, tax and payments and all of the wallet elements and all of the security elements that have to come from payment and PII. That is a mountain of work. It wasn't that kept us away from these programs, but to be able to have that instantly. So that was the phone call. It was literally like, we've got this, it's working right now. And we were so ready because we'd been building our community. So we had all the things that Pat was mentioning. We've had our private Discords. We've had basically our green room for the people that had been our Bloons tubers, as we affectionately call them.
Is that not the most adorable creator? Yeah, that's my favorite.
Bloons tubers. So anyway, and they're not embarrassed to be called that, but it was a really important process as well, because we had folks that we'd been working with for years and talking about the way that, so giving preview access and doing all those kinds of things, getting feedback. That team is instrumental. As Pat mentioned, it's like being able to avoid those 30% drops because of is often because we share preview builds with our creators, and they're like, this is going to be a problem, and we can get in front of it before it even goes public. So that's massive. But we were ready to go with a group of people. And the most important thing that we did before we even started this was talk to them about, what is this going to mean? How is this going to affect your channel? Is anybody sensitive or wary of these things? Because alongside, there has been this, again, the influencer marketing was starting to develop. And then you were getting all sorts of cold calls about, pay me and I'll make videos, pay me and I'll make videos. And we were never comfortable doing that. But then also our Bloons tubers were like, well, maybe I should be doing this because I can make some money and I can pay some bills. And that's like, it's reasonable. People are trying to support their own growth and they need to do it in some viable way. So to be able to have a program and share with them is this going to turn me into a PIMP to like, now I'm going to have to Hawkeye APs? Is this what I have to do? I was like, no, this is your channel. It's all about you. Promote it as much as you want or as little as you want. It's an opportunity. You know your audience better than we do. We're more so in not setting any structures other than best practices. And we share with the whole team what we've seen doing well. And we've got a couple of our model creators who we say, this is how they do it. And this is where they mention the opportunities to enter codes and why it's important to them to be supported, how it helps them as a channel and content creator. And those are great models. And we share that. And then we talk with Justin. They're like, if there's any examples that Bloons is doing well, please share that with others, because this is absolutely a rising tide. So we're happy to share both data and process on what's been successful for us so that others can be successful. So the integration was actually brilliant. It was a very low overhead, very little technical lift from our team. We were in the program within a week, and we basically started work in August, and we were tracking revenue in September. It was turnkey.
Oh, wow. It's amazing. I can't tell you how many times as a marketer I go to my dev team and I'm like, I need you please to integrate an SDK so that we can do paid UA, so that we can, drive all these players to your game. And the dev team stares at me and they're like, we can fit you in 3 months or something like that. And, I'm like, oh, but it only takes a day to integrate the SDK. And they're like, bullshit. There's no way. So it's great to have a dev on a podcast saying that the integration was fairly simple and that you were able to move that quickly and that you were incentivized to do that. And, the other thing that really my ears peaked up is, in the Web3 world, we hear this, play to earn, right? Axie Infinity, that a bunch of people were playing a game to earn money Web3 wise. But this is kind of like a Web2 version of play to earn, where I'm already playing your game. I love it. I can create a video of me playing the game I love and talk about it and make money for the thing that I already love to do. And I think that's the element that we probably need to push a little bit more, is this is giving people an outlet to express their love and actually make a little bit of money doing the thing that they already love. And that's what I love about this for you guys.
Step into the future of game monetization with Xsolla, the premier partner for game developers seeking to expand their reach and revenue. Xsolla provides a robust suite of tools designed to enhance user acquisition, manage subscriptions, and streamline payment solutions worldwide. Unlock new markets and maximize profitability through their customized, secure payment architecture and dedicated support team. Xsolla, powering game developers to achieve global success.
This podcast is brought to you by AppsFlyer. In today's digital world, understanding your app's journey from discovery to download is more than just insightful, it's essential. Enter AppsFlyer, the leader in mobile attribution and marketing analytics that allows you to measure the full potential of your marketing efforts, making every ad dollar work smarter. With AppsFlyer, that's your new reality. Dive deep into data-driven insights that reveal exactly where your users come from and how they'll interact with your app. AppsFlyer, where your app's potential meets performance. I wanted to poke you on some numbers. You said you were going to share numbers, and off air, you were like, some of these numbers are pretty freaking impressive, my friend. Talk about your increase in first-time purchasers from these programs.
Yeah, so I mean, it's really important also to give context. So even on a program like this, which I'm really so humbled to be a part of this, I'm really a massive supporter of DOF and the way that the games industry as a whole continues to give and to be open and to share. But I want to be conscious that, yes, there's a lot of executives that are Deconstructor fans and followers, but I think it's really important for new people, new developers, young teams, or fewer years under their belts, not necessarily young, but...
Yes, the junior folks that are coming up in the world of game development.
Yeah, but basically people that don't have scale and who can't take on a number of things. They've got a limited amount of time and resource and need to make things work. So it's really important for smaller groups, smaller developers to hear that this is an effective program and that creating something that can allow smaller content creators to just add a little bit of reach to your audience and can make a difference in maybe, $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to them, that is huge. And it can move them to the next level in their ability to buy some good equipment and to increase their production quality and to spend a little bit more time doing it because they don't have to work 3 other part-time jobs. Like those are really meaningful things. So I always want to keep scale. When we talk about Supercell and all these big companies, I think it's important to say that this all sort of starts at the bottom, and it's that developer or that content creator who might be the next Apex creator or developer, but they've got to start somewhere. So I love that this allows small teams and small groups to get into this. But yes, to the numbers, we were incredibly, again, so in terms of pros and cons, our worries were, it's just going to cannibalize revenue that we would have gotten anyway. It's going to, why are we giving away some of these things? But that was a really quick conversation at Kiwi because we're like, who cares if we're giving that money away? We're giving it to the people who deserve it. We're keeping that in the ecosystem. So yes, we're not receiving those dollars. Publicly traded company, it's like, so our bottom line matters, but we think our bottom line ultimately is lifted by the fact that we're sharing this money with our content creators. It's still in the Bloons ecosystem because these are players who they already know and love the game. So the fact that we were able to see that the videos that were produced and streams produced where the creator codes were shared, we saw a 40% engagement from people who had never purchased before. So these were players who, sometimes some were new, some had been playing the game, but they'd never spent before. So that ability to just cross the line, that is a massive, massive number. So 40% of people who purchased through using the creator code were first-time spenders. And then we saw another 16% of people who had been historical spenders, but had lapsed spending. They'd stopped spending. So they'd either re-engaged with the game or they'd found something through the creator that they felt worth supporting. Or maybe it was even that act of kindness of like, I am going to make this purchase because I can support a content creator who I believe in and want to support. So there is an altruistic aspect to this that I don't think should be lost in this as well. Anyway, we were really impressed by those numbers. And even though we didn't have concerns about giving money away, we were pleased to see that this has actually brought money to the table. Another great number that we're happy to share is that we're closing in on $2 million of total spend that have come in through the content creator program in just 2 years anniversary. Now, the creator program also spans BTD6 and our Bloons Tiki Battles 2 game. And we're just about to launch in our 3rd game, Blitz Cardstorm, that's coming out next week. But that's $2 million of top line spend, and our top content creator has made in their revenue share over 150 grand.
Oh, wow.
So that's a meaningful number. And we're pleased that we've got 10 people that have gone 5 figures and heaps of people who have crossed the $5,000 mark. So
Scott, when do I get Code Pat?
Anytime you want. It's an open program.
Oh, that's amazing. And I think, again, when I was at Riot, we noticed that if you can get somebody over that tipping point to make their first purchase, the opportunity for that person to continue purchasing was dramatically higher. And then it sounds like you actually have re-engaged purchasers as well because of the altruistic nature of the program itself. So from a game perspective and a business perspective, it's also great for you, as well as the $2 million of total revenue you've generated and 5 folks probably almost ready to quit their jobs to do this full time. Like that's pretty cool. Justin, how does this track against what you've seen in maybe some of your other partners and other games? And I think, Pat, you might be at a little bit of a different level, but how does this track and what you all see?
Yeah, I think when we initially wanted to start Nexus to be that creator program in a box, the idea of how we were going to communicate with developers and publishers was, you should do this so that creators make more content, which is like a really squishy, vague thing that it's hard to tie back to numbers and certainly tie back to the bottom line. But we've been really proud to see a lot of the stuff that Scott mentioned, where the creator programs directly and meaningfully impact things like conversion from a free player to a paying player, for reactivating churned players, for significantly increasing retention. We've seen in some of our games, players that use a creator code will end up playing the game more than twice as long as the average player, that'll play much more sessions, that end up spending more if they're in the top quartile of spenders, a bunch of great things on like the growth metric side of things. And also to speak to what Scott mentioned around keeping your most engaged creators in the ecosystem, I think that can't go under talked about. Like the idea of sharing revenue with your most engaged creators, really and literally what you're doing is you're directly retaining the way that your most engaged players will stay in the game. So by retaining that one person, that one content creator, you're further retaining your most engaged players, the players that are playing the game the most, spending the most, bringing in their own communities and audiences. Like they do that because their favorite creator is playing the game. And so if you have a chance to get that person to make a living and to focus on just making content for your game, like that is the big opportunity. And it's hard to see that past the, the fear of cannibalization. But like you want as much spending as possible to be flowing through those creators, because the more that you incentivize and engage and retain them, like the better you're going to see your game. If you are the sort of game that cares about really highly engaged players, if you're a hyper casual game, a lot of this is going to be a lot less effective.
Yeah, I think jumping in on that, Justin, a real life example ultimately of like the loyalty that it built. I remember, I think this was maybe 2017, 2018. I should have looked back at this convo, but there was a time with Supercell games in particular where viewership was going down across all the titles in the end, from Clash of Clans to Clash Royale. And for the creators, obviously, with viewership going down and maybe some updates that were hitting the mark, there was a little bit of a panic in the end. And the creator program at that time had been a little bit less built out, but at the time we had seen some competitive games enter the ecosystem. I won't name names, but there were some games coming in who were willing to offer creators paid fixed monthly fees to cover their games in the end. And as a creator, hey, my viewership's going down. Hey, there's not really maybe a more evolved version of this creator program. This other group's coming in and just offering paid fixed fees. Like there was panic that was happening at that time in the end. And I remember sitting outside of a Motel 6 at LAX and talking with someone on the phone with Supercell. And I was like, guys, something needs to change ultimately. And it's not like I had the idea of what a master construct would be at the time to fix that relationship between, developer and creator. But lo and behold, 4 to 5 months later, Ryan Lighton, shout out to him and his amazing team at Supercell, flew 8 of the biggest Supercell creators out to their San Francisco HQ and unveiled the first version of what it looked like with creator codes within the game and an enhanced version of the creator program in the end. And it was this pivotal moment where creators, for maybe the only time I can remember, were almost thinking of mutiny, to where now more than ever, they were bringing us in and aligning us with the journey, not only from a financial perspective from the code, but with a communication perspective as far as when new updates are released and things are happening with the game. You guys are not only going to be in the fold, but you're invested into this game's success as it pertains to going forward in the end. And that turned into a certain amount of loyalty. No longer was it, looking the other way when it came to competitors releasing games or wondering, is this the game I should attach my boat to for the next 3 years in my career in the end? Because if the game goes down, I'm going down. Is there fresher pastures out there? Supercell found a way through their creator program to bring all sides onto the same page and to bring everyone in together. Again, not only through the code, but purely from a communication perspective that led to the amazing success that they've ultimately had through the program and why they have some of the most diehard creators in all mobile games.
I love that story. How excited are you that Brawl Stars has had this resurgence this past year? Because I think when we found you for TFT, it was because of what your work was on Brawl Stars.
Yeah. Brawl Stars is incredible. Brawl Stars is easily the most well-managed mobile game that I've ever created content for in the end. Maybe the most well-managed mobile game ever, except for, of course, Bloons Tower Defense. Shout out to Scott. It's incredible how they have not really missed. We take a look inside of internal creator chats, and we really expect, honestly, in the end, everyone's going to make mistakes, whether through updates or communications. Like something happens. Not everyone can bat 1,000, but Brawl Stars truly has done an amazing job from moment one, not only with their game, but the way that they manage their community, the way they speak with the creators, the way that they're open, they're honest, and they balance, the business side of what they're building with Brawl Stars with ultimately the player base and the creators that they're working with. And because of that, the amount of goodwill that they've now purchased through the actions that they've made has led to, even when some updates have ended up missing to the smallest degree, people are still like, hey, this is the best mobile game I've ever been a part of. This is the best community that I've ever been a part of. There is no panic in the end. And it's been amazing to be part of the Brawl Stars program and to fast forward now 5 years later after the game has been released. And heck, Clash of Clans 12 years after I've created my first video, for them to be doing so amazing as they've done today. I think it's a testament to the people at Supercell, and, you know, for us creators, a huge testament to the team that they put together to make all of us into huge Supercell fans.
If I can just underscore that, is it, you know, especially for decision makers and leaders out there, it's because we want to look at KPIs and we want to look at those hard stats, but that time and that trust that's built over time, it's very hard to measure, but it is palpable. Having a tenure of working together for 5 years, for 10 years, it is so meaningful. We are that much faster to make decisions. We're that much faster to share things. We're completely open and understand what that dynamic's going to be. So it gets better every year. It is compounding investment on that time and those relationships, those communications, and our ability to be creative. And so I just can't echo Pat's words enough. It really matters every year.
It's almost like what you do in your personal relationship. If you can start from a foundation of trust and goodwill, the money follows because you build that. One of the final topics I wanted to get into is, you know, we hit a lot on some of the like blocking and tackling obvious stuff, but what people don't realize, and I've realized this, is trying to do the administrative or the executional work of working with creators all around the world with different tax structures and the tracking and all of these things. Justin, I wanted you to talk a little bit about how you think about other benefits of these creator platforms or these creator programs where you've got a platform kind of running it. You've got an SDK you can plug into your game that allows you to help with all of the bullshit, I'll put that in quotes, all of the tactical administrative stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about that side of things, like the unsexy but important side?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about 3 pieces. So one is onboarding. So how do you choose which creators can join your program? And then how do you manage that? If you're going to do it yourself, you're going to probably end up with Google Forms and a really angry community manager. But that's a big piece, is like, you know, when you establish one of these programs, you're going to have a lot of people sign up. And some of those are not going to be folks you want in the program. And not because they're too small of a creator, but probably because they're lying and they're pretending to be someone else. And so you're going to have to build tools around how do you authenticate that they are who they say they are. And so that's something that we do, where like you have to sign up and authenticate your YouTube or your Twitch or whatever platform you're saying, you know, you're from and who you are. The second piece is all things that have to do with mass communication. So how do you communicate with dozens, hundreds, or thousands of individuals at the same time, especially if you want to send them keys? Well, today, if you're just going to do it yourself, you're going to, again, have that angry community manager, because you're going to tell them you're going to send out individual keys on Discord to hundreds of people, and they're going to be annoyed at you. Or have them all sign NDAs or send over builds. To do that individually is really challenging, but if you have some sort of like first party platform that you build or work with a partner, you know, you can do that more easily. And then there's the whole financial side, which is everything from payments to dashboarding to taxes. So dashboarding is really important. You want the feedback loop for the creator to be as short as possible, meaning from the time that they make content to know that, you know, that their audience cared about it and bought something. That has a lot of value, but obviously them actually knowing that they're getting paid has a lot of value. So seeing those live dashboards is critical. And then the actual piece to make sure those creators get paid on time, every time. Those payment rails are really tough to make. If you're running a studio that has like 90 developers, you know how to do payroll for that. And maybe you have a handful of contractors, but suddenly adding 100 1099s will make your accounting team unhappy. And then at the end of the year, you got to handle taxes for all those people who are in dozens of different countries. That probably sounds like a lot of unsexy, awful work. And that has been my life for the past 5 years. So thank you. But yeah, those are some of the pieces that you need to build if this is something that you're excited about and what you want to do, and some of like the blocking and tackling that's important. And we've talked a lot about traditional content creators, which are YouTubers or live streamers or TikTokers or whatever. But what we found, especially for mobile games, is if you have some sort of in-game community system, so clans or groups or something like that, those sort of community leaders, or we call them like ambassadors, they can be really powerful here as well. And this is a good way to work with them and incentivize them and keep them excited. And then Scott's also done some really incredible work on the player creator side, which is when players are making content, which is traditionally, you know, called UGC. Like, how do you keep those folks excited and engaged, and how do you work with them at scale, and a bunch of the different mechanics that have to do with this.
Scott, go for it. Talk a little bit about this UGC. I mean, it's a big deal these days.
But again, on the light lift, this is just something that we explore. So this is really a project that we built with Nexus, and got a lot of great tech on the Ninja Kiwi side, and really strong engineers and thought leaders, because it's not just a technical program, but it's the safety, security, and administrative. But we extended our content creator system to support our player generated content. So in Bloons TD6, you can make maps and challenges. And then we created an IAP that was specific to those elements so that you could gift or give a badge to any of that player created content. And that IAP was tracked separately. So we used the Nexus platform to build our player creator, content creator revenue stream. So we are now, for players that build content and that is liked enough by other players that they're paying to give them a badge, we share a percentage of that revenue through the Nexus system. And the fun thing that we did with this as well is that we stacked that with the content creators. So if you're a content creator, so there basically is a player generated content creator revenue share, and there's a content creator revenue share. And if you are a content creator who creates player content in the game, you get to add those pieces together. So that becomes quite meaningful, because we see the value in the content creators. We see the value in the player creators. We think these are trends that are good for business, and they're going to be growth trends, as we've seen very successful games with those programs. But we're also really interested in the next generation of game developers, giving that teenager the ability to make their first money in game development in their teens while they're still in high school, because they built some content inside Bloons TD6. That's magic. And maybe now I will go to that. I will take that programming class. Maybe now I will study marketing, go into art, do something. Maybe I can do this because I've made that. I've got that little boost of confidence. And then the more that we can get people into these conversations, as we're talking about with Pat, like, get them into these loops, get them into the green room, let them see behind the scenes so that they're not scared and that they understand that it's accessible, that it is sustainable. That confidence is massive and could be the fuel for the next generation of game developers. If that lights that fire, then I'm happy to be a part of that.
Oh, I'm very inspired by your passion on this. And I think you are touching on a trend, what's going on in Roblox, Minecraft, and UEFN with the UGC 3 is that a number of inexperienced folks are creating their own content, whether it be UGC items, whether it be game experiences. And we're not seeing a lot of that in mobile games or in game. Obviously most of Roblox creators play on mobile, but there aren't a lot of mobile games doing things like this. And to have a platform that kind of facilitates that for you makes a lot of sense. Pat, last word to you. Is there anything about, these kind of programs in a boxes or these platforms that we missed, or any last words you want to leave from the voice of a creator to the game industry nerds out there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I feel like for me, obviously, maybe I'm a bit biased in the end, but I feel like having a creator program and a creator club is just going to be essential going forward. If you have a game that's built around content, that's spectatable, that has any quote unquote YouTube value, as I like to call it in the end. And really, the last thing, we touched on this at the very beginning, but if you're developing and deploying an influencer marketing strategy, obviously that has its place. And there's been some incredible campaigns even that we've done here at Try, but supplementing that with a creator program is absolutely going to amplify the success of any of those programs. I mean, think of running an influencer marketing campaign. You take some of the biggest mobile gaming creators or creators more broadly, you show off your incredible title. After that campaign is done and those creators go back to the content that they were creating previously, where does that audience go from there? They're going to look for natural content on the channel, on YouTube or whatever platform, to continue enjoying content around that game. I mean, for me, when I looked at Clash of Clans back in 2012, no one was posting content around the game. And I was like, I guess I'll, take a break from studying accounting and post some videos here. And fortunately for me, as the game grew, players were able to funnel to my channel and help, grow my channel and everything else. But I think now with influencer marketing campaigns, you need to create somewhere for people to go after. And that truly is going to be the lifeblood of your community through these creator programs, where even if someone is getting a few hundred views a video, but if you're running UA and all of a sudden they look up and they find this person's channel, that person is going to be the next thought, leader and tastemaker for your game going forward in the end. So compiling those two together, you're going to get dedicated influencers, you're going to get dedicated creators. Ultimately, it's going to pay off for years and even, over a decade to come, with me and Supercell ultimately as an example in the end. So it's definitely a worthwhile investment.
Love it. Well, thank you so much. Pat, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at Chief Pat, Twitter at Chief Pat, or Pat at tribegaming.gg. Feel free to say hi.
Do you want to tell? Do people know the origin story of your name, or is that a secret?
Oh, well, Clash of Clans, I downloaded it, again, procrastinating for an accounting exam, and it said, what is your name, Chief? And of course, the brilliant strategist that I am, I wrote Chief Pat, because that is my name. There we go.
So that's how it happens. It's that simple. Scott Walker, thank you for joining. Where can people find you?
My pleasure. Yeah, I don't know. It's Scott at Ninja Kiwi. I'm old school, so email works.
Email. Oh, got it. All right. And Justin Sachs, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter, or I guess X, at Justin, and then 2_ Sachs. I'm terrible at coming up with usernames. Or you can email me, justin@nexus.gg.
All right. Well, thank you very much, guys, and see you next time.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry's best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand. Or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.